The ranch lay silent beneath a bruised evening sky, the kind of silence that made men uneasy even when they did not yet know why. Grass rolled in slow waves across the open land, unbroken except for a weathered fence, and a low house crouched, near a stand of cottonwoods. From the ridge above, the raiders watched and judged. No smoke from the chimney, no rider patrolling the perimeter, no dogs barking. It looked abandoned, or worse, undefended. Easy. After weeks of hard riding and empty bellies, easy was enough to make them careless. They moved at a trot, 5 horses descending the slope, hooves dull against the dry earth. Leather creaked, metal whispered as hands adjusted grips on rifles and knives. The leader's eyes stayed fixed on the barn and corral, already counting cattle that might still be alive, supplies that could be taken before night fully settled. The land itself seemed to hold its breath as they crossed the fence line, the air turning oddly heavy, pressing against their chests. One horse snorted and sidestepped, rolling a white rim around its eye. But its rider cursed and forced it forward. It was then that one of them noticed the hide. It hung from the fence as if deliberately placed there, stretched smooth and wide, pale against the darkening plains. Not yellowed like old leather, not stained like most hides were, but clean, almost luminous. A white buffalo hide. The sight of it cut through their confidence like a blade. The horses slowed without command. The men followed suit, drawn to a halt by something they could not name. Stories surfaced unbidden, whispers heard in childhood, warnings half-remembered. A white buffalo was not hunted. It was not claimed. It was a sign given, not taken. Some said it meant blessing. Others said it meant change. All agreed it carried weight. The leader scoffed, forcing a laugh that sounded thin even to his own ears. He said it was just a hide, probably stolen, probably meant to scare off fools. Yet he did not urge his horse closer. None of them did. The wind slipped through the grass with a low sigh, and for a moment the plains seemed to watch them in return. From the shadowed porch of the ranch house, unseen eyes observed the hesitation. The raiders had come expecting weakness. What they found instead was a warning, plain as day, hanging in silence on a fence. The men dismounted slowly, as if sudden movement might disturb whatever invisible balance had settled over the ranch. Dust drifted around their boots and then fell back to the earth, and still no sound came from the house or the barn. The white hide remained where it was, stretched tight along the fence rails, its pale surface catching the last light of day. One of the raiders stepped closer, drawn by a mix of curiosity and dread. He lifted his hand, fingers trembling, then stopped short. Something about the hide felt wrong to touch, as though it did not belong to the world of men at all. A gust of wind rushed across the plains, colder than before, rattling the fence and setting the hide rippling like water. The horses pulled at their reins, ears flat, eyes wide. Another raider crossed himself and muttered a prayer he had not spoken in years. He remembered an old trader once saying that a white buffalo was a messenger, and that harming or disrespecting its sign invited ruin. At the time, the words had sounded like superstition. Standing here now, they felt uncomfortably real. A voice rose from the stillness. "You're a long way from where you should be." The men spun around, rifles half raised. An old man stood near the barn as though he had simply grown out of the shadows. His coat was worn thin, his hair silver. His posture relaxed in a way that suggested he had nothing to prove. A rifle rested in his hands, not aimed, not lowered, simply there. His eyes were steady, dark, and unafraid. The leader stepped forward, forcing his shoulders straight. He demanded to know whose land this was, why a hide like that hung on a common fence. The old man listened without interrupting, then shook his head once, slow and deliberate. He said the land did not belong to him in the way the raider meant. It belonged to itself. The hide was not a trophy or a trick. It was a warning. Laughter broke out, sharp and uneasy. One of the men mocked the idea, saying no piece of skin could stop armed riders. Even as he spoke, thunder rolled faintly across the horizon, though the sky remained clear. The sound seemed to come from the ground rather than the clouds. The old man's gaze moved from face to face. He told them they still had time to turn back, to leave without blood on their hands. Behind his calm words lay something heavier, a certainty that made the air feel thick. One raider felt his knees weaken. He had seen signs like this once before, long ago, just before everything had gone wrong. Silence stretched between them, and in that silence, the raiders felt the weight of the choice before them, pressing down like the gathering night. The grass began to move, not with the careless motion of wind, but with purpose. At first it was subtle, a shifting at the edges of vision, dark shapes rising where moments before there had been only open land. The raiders turned slowly, dread crawling up their spines as figures emerged from the tall plains, mounted and silent, spreading outward until escape narrowed to a single, fragile line. None of the riders spoke. They did not need to. Their presence alone carried judgment. The leader raised his rifle, but the weight of it felt wrong in his hands, as though it no longer belonged to him. His breath came fast and shallow. He shouted, trying to sound commanding, but his voice cracked in the open air. No one answered. The horses stamped and whined, sensing what their riders refused to accept. This was not an ambush born of chance. It was something older, deliberate, and final. The old man stepped forward, placing himself between the raiders and the house. He said nothing at first, letting the truth settle. When he finally spoke, his words were quiet, yet they seemed to carry across the plains without effort. He told them they had come with hunger in their hearts and violence in their hands. He told them the land remembered such things. The white buffalo hide behind them fluttered once, catching the last light of the sun like a pale flame. One raider broke. He dropped his weapon and ran for his horse, panic stripping away pride and reason. Before he reached the saddle, the horse reared violently, throwing him hard to the ground. He did not rise. The others watched, frozen, as if that single act had sealed their fate. No shots were fired. None were needed. The mounted figures closed in just enough to make their meaning clear. This ground was not to be taken. The raiders felt their courage drain away, replaced by a deep, bone-heavy shame. One by one, they backed toward the fence, eyes lowered, hands empty. Those who could still mount did so with trembling limbs, turning their horses away from the ranch without a word. By dawn, the plains were quiet again. Hoofprints faded into the grass. The ranch stood untouched, the house and barn unchanged, as if nothing had happened at all. The white buffalo hide remained on the fence, clean and bright in the morning light, watching over the land. Those who rode away carried the story with them, though few would speak of it. And those who heard it would learn, as they did, that some places are guarded by more than guns or men. They are guarded by meaning and by the land itself.